One of the most common ways of engaging with technical SEO is via a technical SEO audit. When you begin conducting an audit, or when you're hiring somebody to conduct an audit for you, one of the most common questions that it leads to is, what does that audit need to include? What should that audit explore? What should that audit dig into? That's the question that we're going to look at in this video today. One of the first and biggest things to note is you want to make sure you're doing more than checking items off a list. One of the most common problems I see with people conducting a technical SEO audit is all they're doing is going through a checklist. How many 404s do I have? What are my speed metrics? Are my titles missing? Are they too long? Are they too short? What's going on with meta description tags? Are they too long? Are they too short? Are they missing? Do I have schema present? How do redirects look on my website? And so on. And it's not that those metrics are unimportant. They are. You want to make sure that you're digging into those metrics and looking at those metrics as part of the audit. However, the problem becomes that these formulaic audits that only follow that checklist, they aren't all that beneficial because they stay on the surface. They don't give you an opportunity to dig into the problems really facing the website. And that's because the checklist itself becomes the focal point. Did I check all those boxes off this list? Instead of, did I really answer the key questions that I needed to address? What this gets to is that your tech SEO audit process should allow you to look into specific items and allow you to answer key questions about your website's performance. Your audit may need to ignore certain areas. Maybe you don't need to look at titles. Maybe you don't need to look at meta descriptions in depth. Maybe you do need to dig into a lot of 404 issues, or you need to dig into crawl budget issues. Whatever it is, your audit needs some flexibility to help you dig into the areas that really matter the most to that website. In short, an audit shouldn't really be seen as a checklist at all. An audit is really an opportunity to determine what the highest priority items are that are really holding your website back from performing better in search results. So instead of a formulaic checklist, you need guiding questions, and those guiding questions will help us think through all the problems that exist on our website and all the opportunities that exist for our website. So for the rest of this video, I want to talk about not the items that need to go on a checklist, but rather the guiding questions that you need to be asking during the technical SEO audit. The first of those questions is if the website you're auditing is crawlable. You want to know if they can discover all the pages contained on that website. If you start digging into how bots are moving through your website and you see that they're missing an entire section of content, that's a problem. And you want to explore that. You want to understand, why are they missing those pages? Are they missing those pages because there aren't sufficient links to those pages? Or is it something about the content quality on those pages that might be preventing bots from reaching it? Or is it something else that's going on that's preventing bots from even seeing those parts of your website? Or maybe not seeing them enough? Another question that relates to this is if bots are seeing all the images contained on your website. If you have a lot of graphics that would be important and could potentially rank in search results, well, are bots finding those? Are they able to reach those? Or are you doing something to block robots from even seeing your images in the first place? And related to this, you also want to know if bots are using the links that you have contained on your website. Are they following links in the navigation? Are they following links contained in your content? Ultimately, you want to know if you're doing your best to make those images and text understandable and findable. And that requires looking at a lot of different factors and a lot of different metrics and really exploring your website in a different way, not just following a simple checklist. There's not an easy list of things I can give you to answer this question of if your website is crawlable. Rather, if your website is crawlable depends on looking at a lot of different factors and exploring a lot of different data points to understand what's really going on with your website. Some of the things that you can look at to answer these questions would include the total number of pages that Google has found on the website relative to the total volume of pages that there are to be found. If Google is only finding 500 pages, but you have 2,000 pages on your website, well, then you know you have a problem. You can also look at your XML sitemap. Determine if the XML sitemap is well structured, error-free, does it include key pages. As well, you want to know if Google is using that XML sitemap to help discover pages that exist on your website? Do you see the XML sitemap listed as a source of discovery within Google Search Console? Do you see Google's bots hitting your XML sitemap on a regular basis? Do you see that when you include URLs in an XML sitemap that they're getting picked up more frequently? And more, right? It's not just about saying, oh, I have an XML sitemap and the XML sitemap is error-free, but how is that XML sitemap really working for your website? Is it working at all for your website? You also want to understand and look at the crawl patterns you see from Googlebot within your log files and identify where and why problems may exist. Maybe you look at your log files and you see that Google is hitting a lot of low quality, thin content on your website, and they're ignoring a bunch of good, high quality content as a result. Well, why is that? What's gone on to cause bots to get distracted by all this low quality content? Yes, part of it is that low quality content exists, but what is it about the links pointing to that low quality content that's drawing bots there and not drawing bots over to your good, high quality content? You also want to review robot control statements and ensure that this website is using no index statements, no follow statements, disallow statements correctly. You also want to know, how is Google treating these statements? In a lot of cases, I'll start digging into a website and find that Google's outright ignoring no index statements. They're outright ignoring disallow statements. Why is that? Why would Google ignore those things on a website? And what does that tell us about the problems and opportunities that might exist on that website? You also want to review the HTML within each page and really figure out if this text is readable by bots. Can links be followed? Can images be read and understood? The cleaner you can make your code, the simpler you can make your HTML, the better. That will make the crawl from the bots that much more efficient, that much better for them, and much more likely for bots to actually find the content that matters. Let's talk about the next question. Is the website indexable? Assuming a bot can crawl the website, assuming that they can find all the pages that exist on your website, you want to now make sure that all the pages look as high quality as possible from a technical point of view. That is, you might have great content on your website, but are you bogging that content down with so many technical mishaps and so many technical problems that bots can't really get to that content or see that content or understand that content? If you are, then that really great content you have isn't going to be able to perform. And this is where the technical side of SEO can really help the content side of SEO perform better. So to figure this out and to look at this, there's a lot of different things you can explore, including the errors that exist on a website. That's 404 errors, server errors, or anything else that's happening on your website that might prevent bots from seeing that content or being able to really see that content is as high value as it is. Beyond knowing that the errors exist, you also want to know why these errors are occurring. You want to know how big of a problem these errors present, or the errors don't present. In some cases, I'll go in and look at a website and find, sure, there's a lot of 404 errors in Google Search Console or in other tools that are saying that there's a lot of errors that exist on this website. But then you start to say, well, do those errors present a problem? Are they actually affecting users? Are they affecting bots? Is it holding this website back? And you find out that that may not actually be the case. You can also look at how many links, internal or external, point to redirects. If you have a lot of links pointing to redirects, you're making it harder for bots to crawl through your website and know which page they ought to index. You also want to look at your website's speed, including speed on key pages. Far too often I see people only measure the speed on the website's homepage. And yeah, that's important to understand the speed on the homepage, but you want to understand the speed on a whole bunch of other pages as well. Along with that, you also want to know how speed looks on different connection types and from different browsers and from different devices. More than just understanding if the website meets the basics, the core web vitals, well, what you want to really know is what's the overall experience of loading this website. Is it a really painful website to load, in which case you're probably going to drive a lot of users away. Another thing we may want to look at here is how many pages on the website are junk content. Are there a lot of duplicate pages, a lot of thin content, a lot of doorway pages, and so on? How many of those pages is Google finding? If Google's finding those pages, how many of those pages are ending up in Google's index? Another thing that you can look at to understand if Google is indexing and understanding your website in the right way is mobile friendliness. It's not just about knowing that Google's mobile friendliness guidelines are met. That's important. You want to look at Google Search Console and check out mobile usability factors and see if there's a lot of errors reported. But you also want to look at your website on a bunch of different mobile devices and figure out if this website is difficult or hard to use on mobile devices. If it is hard to use on mobile devices, then you're going to be driving traffic away as soon as they arrive on your website. That's a problem. That's a problem for SEO and also a problem for a lot of other marketing channels as well. So the more that you can do to understand how easy is the mobile website to use, the better your chances of not just improving your SEO performance, but improving your website's performance overall. The next question that we can dig into is if the website is ranking. Now that Google has crawled the website, now that we know how Google is indexing the website, we need to review how the website is performing within search results. Is there something you can do technically to get not only a page ranking maybe a little bit higher, but even if you can't change the position that something ranks in, maybe you can drive more clicks to that page. So to answer this question, we can look at things like title tags and description tags, and we can see if they're even being used by Google in search results. More often than not, meta description tags are probably going to be replaced by Google, especially on really big volume terms. If Google isn't using our meta description tag, what content is being pulled into the search result? Is there something about that content that we can do to tweak it and make it a little bit better? We can also look at schema and figure out if schema is being used to mark up the content. If schema is being used, is it being pulled into Google search results? Whatever it is that you're trying to mark up, is Google picking it up? Is Google using it? If they're not using it, why aren't they using it? Do they just not support that schema type? Or is there something wrong about how the schema is structured? You can also look at what else is being surfaced in the search results and see if all that information is accurate and appropriate to include. That includes fraggles and images and videos and links in the knowledge panel. Go through it and make sure that all of that is coming out correctly. Make sure that there's not anything that's incorrect. But as well, go through that and see if there's anything that you can do to get something else included. Maybe by changing your code just a little bit, you can get some more information presented in the search results, and that could potentially increase not only position, but the amount of people clicking on your search result listing. Within the ranking considerations, technically, you also want to look at no snippet and max snippet tags. Are those tags being used? If they're being used, are they being respected by Google? Is there a way to potentially use those tags in a better way or in a different way to support this website and get better performance? You can also look at how competitors are performing in organic search results and see if they're doing something technically to help them perform better. If they are doing something that helps them perform better, then you want to figure out if that's something that the website you're auditing can also do. Looking at competitors is a great way to find new opportunities. Maybe you find that a competitor is doing something with schema that you never thought about doing. And so you might want to then use that schema to improve your website's performance as well. Let's wrap up with a few final thoughts. The biggest takeaway from all of this is that a tech SEO audit should not be a simple checklist to work through. You want to do more than just check items off a list and say, oh, I looked at this website's technical SEO performance. No, a checklist isn't going to get you a whole lot. What will get you a whole lot is exploring your website and really determining how the website is performing in search results. What does it look like in terms of crawling? What does it look like in terms of indexing? What does it look like in terms of ranking? Are there things that you can be doing better? If you want a few additional resources, I do have a book called Tech SEO Guide that walks through the fundamental aspects of technical SEO. I also have a course that's available on TabletWise walking through the fundamental aspects of technical SEO, a lot of the things that we've talked about in this video in a lot more depth. If you have any other questions, or if you want help auditing your website's tech SEO performance, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you found it informative and educational, please subscribe for more videos like this from Elementive.